Hello guys, welcome to my channel. In today's video, we want to learn how to draw the basic pattern of the upper body. After watching the measurement video, I'll give you the link below. We'll go to the table that I left for you and prepare these two tables according to our measurements. To start, we draw an L on the left side of the paper. Then we add half the size of the hip circumference plus 3 centimeters. For example, mine is half 110 plus 3 centimeters, which makes 58 centimeters. From this point, I come 58 centimeters to the right. I call the bottom line the hip line. From the right side of the hip line, I draw a line perpendicular to the hip line. This new line I drew is parallel to the left line. The line on the left is center back line, and the line on the right is center front line, and the bottom line is the hip line. We go up 22 centimeters from the hip line and draw a line parallel to the hip line and call it the waistline. We go down 9 centimeters from the waistline and draw a line parallel to the waistline, which we call mid-hip line. From the waistline, from the center front line, we go up and mark the length of the front, which is 37 centimeters for me. From the waistline, from the center back line, we go up and mark the length of the back, which is 39 centimeters for me. We find the front neck width, and from this point, that is from the highest of the front, we take the width of the collar, which is 7.5 centimeters for me, to the left. We get the front neck height. Mine is 6.5 centimeters. From this point, I go up 6.5 centimeters vertically. I find the front shoulder waist. Mine is 26 centimeters. From this point, we go to the front of the shoulder waist. From the point we found 50 centimeters, we draw a line parallel to the waistline. From this point, we mark the shoulder size, which is 20 centimeters for me, so that it cuts the line. We draw the bisector of this angle and we continue for 3 centimeters. Draw the front leg so that it passes through these 3 points. Mark on the hip line from the center front line half of the bust distance, which is 9 centimeters for me. From this point that we marked, we draw a line perpendicular to the hip line and continue until we reach the neckline. This line is called the bust distance line. From this point on the bust distance line, mark the bust length. Mine is 28 centimeters, so that it cuts the line and the point obtained is bust point. Draw a line from the bust point so that it passes through the bust point and is parallel to the waistline. The name of the line we drew is the bust line. We get the back neck width minus 8.1 centimeters. From the center back line, we bring the back neck width vertically to the right. Take the back neck height minus 4 centimeters, and from this point we go up 4 centimeters vertically. Find the bisector of this angle and continue for 2.5 centimeters. Now we draw the back neck that it passes through these 3 points. Measure from the high point of the back that we marked on the bust line and divide by 2. My size is 24, and if I divide it by 2, it will be 12 centimeters. From this point that we found, we draw a line that is parallel to the bust line. This line is chest line. On the back side of the chest line, we mark the half of the back chest. Mine is 17.5 centimeters. From this point that we marked, we draw a line perpendicular to the chest line. Find the back shoulder base. Mine is 10.1 centimeters. On this line, we go up from the bottom to the back shoulder base, which is 10.1 centimeters for mine, and make a mark. From the same point, we draw a 4 centimeters perpendicular line from this point. We mark on the line as long as the shoulder length, which is 12 centimeters for mine, so that it cuts the line. On the chest line, we move forward half of the chest to the left side and make a mark. Mine is 16. We get a quarter of the hip measurements, minus 1, on the hip line from the back. We take this size on the right side and mark. Mine is 26.5 centimeters. Find the quarter of the hip measurements plus 1 centimeter on the hip line from the front. As far as we can find, mine is 28.5 centimeters. We come to the left and mark. On the bust line, we go from the center back line to the size of a quarter bust measurement to the right side. Mine is 24.5 centimeters, and we make a mark. On the bust line from the center front line, go to the left side and mark a quarter of the bust measurement plus 2 centimeters. Mine is 26.5 centimeters. Now connect the points that mark on the hip line and the bust line, as shown in the video. Measure these parts and add them together. Mine is 52.5 centimeters. We compare the half of our waist measurement that we measured with the one we got now.
The half of my waist measurement that I measured is 39 centimeters, and the size I took from the pattern is 52.5 centimeters. I subtract 52.5 centimeters from 39 and distribute the difference on the waistline.
On the waistline, I go in 1 centimeter from the center back line. I connect this point to the point of the hip line, and again I connect this point to the point on chest line. I measure the back part of the hip on the hip line and divide it by 2. From this point, I draw a line perpendicular to the hip line to the waistline. The name of this line is the middle back line. From this point on the waistline, I go 1.75 cm to the left and 1.75 cm to the right and mark. I go up from the middle back line 9 cm. Now I connect this point to the previous 2 points that I specified. I measure this part on the waistline and divide it by 2. From this point that I marked, I draw a line perpendicular to the waistline and continue this line to the bust line and also to the mid-hip line. From here, I go to the waistline 1.25 cm to the left and 1.25 cm to the right of the perpendicular line. Actually, I'm distributing the difference that I got, which is 13.5 cm on the waistline. Now I connect these 2 points to this point on the mid-hip line. In the front hip line, I go up and mark 6 cm on the hip line on the boost distance line. On the waistline, I go to the left and right from the intersection of the boost distance line and the waistline by 1.75 cm and make a mark. Now I connect these 2 points to the previous point that I marked on the waistline. I measure this part and divide it by 2, and then draw a line perpendicular to the waistline so that it passes through this point, and I continue this line to the mid-hip line and the same way to the boost line. On the waistline, from the intersection of the nude line and the waistline, I go 1.25 cm to the left and right and mark. Now I draw these lines according to the video. I measure the parts that I specified on the waistline and add them together, and then I compare it with the quarter of my waist that I measured in reality, and I subtract the quarter of my waist in reality and get the difference. For me, the size I put on the pattern is 39.3 cm and my quarter waist measurement is 39 cm in reality. The difference is 0.3 cm and we divide this difference by 2. For me it was 0.15 cm. On the waistline, from the parts that I marked, I enter 0.15 cm and mark. In fact, I apply this difference I obtained to the pattern. Connect these points with the lines I marked to the points I marked on the boost line and hip line. Measure back shoulder length and divide it by 2 and mark. Connect this point to that point on the waistline.
This part, which I marked with a red line, is measured from the chest line to the boost line and divide by 4. For me it was 12 cm. I divide 12 cm by 4. It is 3 cm from the chest line. On the same line, I go down to 3 cm and mark. I connect this point that I marked to this point on the waistline. On the boost line, I go down 2 cm from the boost point and make a mark. I connect the point I marked to these 2 points on the waistline. To get the distance from the waistline to underarm, I add front waist length and back waist length and divide the result by 4 and add the answer to 2. For me, it is 21 cm. On the waistline, I go up 21 cm perpendicular to the waistline between the front and back pattern and mark and draw a line parallel to the waistline. I draw a vertical line from the boost line to the underarm line, both from the back and from the front. Now I enter 1 cm from each side. I draw the crescent of the sleeve so that it passes through these 3 points. I divide the front shoulder length by 2. It becomes 6 for me, and I mark it. I connect this point to the boost point. I divide the boost size by 12. For me it is 8.1 cm. From this point I go down 8.1 cm on the shoulder line and make a mark. I connect this point to the boost point. Now I put these 2 lines that I marked on top of each other and temporarily close them with a glue. After putting those two lines on top of each other and closing them, I continue this line and then mark my shoulder length, which is 12 cm, on the shoulder line again, so that it cuts the line. I continue the chest line and then I mark half of the front chest on the line. For me it is 16 and I mark 16 cm on the chest line. Now I'll trace this part on the paper below. I open the paper and make the mark I made bolder with a pencil. I draw the front sleeve loop again so that it passes through these 3 points. I draw the loop of the back sleeve as shown in the video so that it passes through these 3 points. Thank you for being with me. I'll be happy if you support me with likes, comments and subscribe. Until the next video, bye!